Hello, everyone. My name is Gilda Ross. I'm the GPS coordinator and the Student and Community Projects Director at the Glenbard Schools. I'm delighted that you could be here. I am aware of several watch parties going on today at noon. And the great news is we will be back again with Kirsten at 7 p.m. to answer all your questions here at noon and again at 7. This is an excellent book. If you have a child who is an athlete or a child who's considering getting involved in athletics, I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Kirsten has been with us before, but now this is a true special event. We've got an extended amount of time with Kirsten. We couldn't be more excited. We have an ask of everyone that's listening, and that is to please share this resource. Everyone is welcome to the GPS Parent Series. Please tell your family, neighbors, tell friends that everyone is welcome here. There's no registration, there's never any cost. Check out the website for the 50 programs that happen weekly in 4 different languages at noon and at 7. And check out our library of past events and find programs that speak to your family. Be inspired, be informed, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for the gift of your time. Very quickly, I want to mention the upcoming events that happening in the next few weeks. Next week, we will be welcoming from the Brookings Institute Jenny Anderson and Rebecca Winthrop. Their book is called The Disengaged Teen, Checked Out, Stressed Out, Moving Kids from Disengagement to Drive. They'll be directing their remarks to parents and those who love and work with preteens and teenagers, and that is next week, the 27th at noon and 7 p.m. The following week, we'll be talking a little continuation about today, talking about leaders. Amy Blankson and Lauren Hassan will talking about how do we raise tomorrow's leaders today. There'll be discussion about AI and the implications for parents and children. I know you'll want to hear that one, so circle your calendar for February 4th, noon and 7. Dr. Christine Crawford is Executive Director of NAMI in Boston. She will be talking about her book, You Are Not Alone, Navigating Your Child's Mental Health with Wisdom from Experts and Real Families. She's a noted psychiatrist and a great speaker. So join us on February 10th. Then, going in a different direction, Jody Norgard will be with us in person at noon and at 7 p.m. Her book is More Than a Doll. She talks about her entrepreneurial journey where she started a doll company at a time when go-go sports dolls was only a dream. She'll be with us at noon at the College of DuPage. At 7 o'clock, it will be at Glenbard West. Lots to talk about on February 11th. I'm not going to take any more time, but I'm truly honored that Ted Steck is with us. He is the superintendent of Lamar District 44, and he's as excited as I am to talk about this book. So, Superintendent, take it away.
Thank you, Gilda. I'd like to introduce Kirsten Jones, a former NCAA Division I volleyball player, brings a wealth of experience to the athletic world. She possesses 15 years of experience as a Nike executive, motivational speaker, peak performance coach, and author of the best-selling book, Raising Empowered Athletes. In addition to her impressive credentials, Kirsten is also the host of the award-winning podcast, Raising Athletes. Her passion lies in helping athletes, parents, coaches, and administrators identify their pain points, leverage their strengths, and achieve their individual and collective team and leadership goals. Her superpower, you ask? Helping people get out of their heads and into their bodies so they can feel their best and perform beyond what they believe to be possible. As a parent of 3 athletes, Kirsten understands the pressure, excitement, and anguish that comes with the roller coaster ride that is youth sports. We are thrilled to welcome her to the GPS Parent Series today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Gilda, for having me, and Ted for that wonderful introduction. It's a thrill to be here. I've done other speaking events, as Gilda mentioned, to some of the area schools, but it's fun to get a little more time to be able to dive a little deeper. As the introduction said, I've done it all. I've been a coach on the sidelines with my kids when they were young. My kids are now 25, 22, and 20 as of this weekend. So I'm on the other side of sports parenting. I still do have one playing Division I basketball in college, but and one coaching high school basketball now that he's done with his college journey. But when we think about parenting, I like to think of it as, as a story that our children will one day be telling. And we need to think about it when you're in the heat of the moment and starting off on the journey. What is it that we want them to be talking about when they get to the other side of it? And I wrote this book not because I have a PhD, not because I know everything about it, but when I say, when you get pregnant, you get handed what to expect when you're expecting, and you think, oh, great, I've got all the answers. I'm going to be the best parent ever. And then you get to kick and chase, and there's some yahoo on the sidelines standing next to you going, well, you're not doing this rec thing, right? Like, you're going to do club, and we have a private coach, and we're going to Sweden this summer. And you start feeling like, what am I doing wrong? And having played all the sports growing up and then playing Division I volleyball in college and then working at Nike for 15 years and working with the best athletes in the world, developing the products that they would wear, I've seen it all. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly around how do we do this in a way that we have to feel regulated as we go through it. And I don't care, small kids, small problems, big kids, bigger problems. We're always parents, regardless of whether you have a 5-year-old or a 25-year-old, you're still trying to figure it all out. And so that's what I want to, first of all, acknowledge all of you and say, this thing is hard, right? Like, parenting is hard. And yes, we have moments where we're crushing it, but we also have moments where we're feeling completely overwhelmed. And I just would like to be not a sage from the stage, but a guide from the side. Like, how can I help you say, I'm in the hole with you? And here are some, the goal of this is just to give you from the different perspectives, from your perspective as a sports parent, from your athlete's perspective. I do speak with athletes and work with teams and work individually with parents and their athletes because they need the support too. From the coaches, I'm just going to barely touch on that, and I'm going to really lightly touch on getting recruited if that's your kid's dream. But really, this is the first story in the book, true story in Pennsylvania. Not all of us will hire a plane to fly over our kid's baseball field saying, fire the coach. True story. But a lot of us sometimes feel that way, right? Like, we have something that triggers us. We can't believe we're dealing with this again, or this coach is allowed to, keep doing what he's doing or doing what she's doing. But in this case, the team was winning. They actually had a great season. They actually liked the coaches. It wasn't even about the coaches. It was that this parent's kid wasn't getting a chance to play. And for that, they paid a plane to fly over the field. How did we get to this place where that is the norm? And I think you turn on your, log into your news every morning, you almost every week see somebody jumping onto the ice to go after the ref or getting into well, I believe, and this is kind of the thesis of my book, is this all started, I was born in 1970. This all started in the 70s and 80s. In the 40s and 50s, 24% of women worked outside of the home. By the 70s and 80s, that number had doubled. Now it's almost 78% of moms work outside of the home. At the same time, in the late 70s, 1979, this little channel comes online, ESPN, where I can now turn on and I can watch sports 24/7. This little kid, Tiger Woods, is on the Johnny Carson show at age 3. And as we see him grow, we see what a prodigy looks like. At the same time, a boy gets abducted from a shopping mall in Florida to only find out that it's a really scary world out there. We can't let our kids just run out into the streets and play free. So you have all of these things going on. Moms are working more, dads are working more. There's all of these prodigies that are, in the making. How do we get more involved? How can we help? We got to manage our kids' free time. We can't just let them go outside and play. Oh, and by the way, the United States is falling behind academically as well. So we're now no longer leading. In this report, A Nation at Risk comes out. So a great idea, a great thing happens, and dads particularly say, I'm going to help. I'm going to start coaching. And it starts off really wholeheartedly as dads just volunteer coaching. But as we get into the late early 90s, dads start to say, well, what if I could get Timmy and Johnny and, all of them on one team? And the AAU and the travel ball and all of that starts happening. And we start to get more and more involved. Fast forward to, September of 2018 and the college cheating scandal. This really is no different this is happening in all aspects of our lives, right? Parents who are saying, I can pay somebody 15 grand and I can help my kid get into college. It starts at a very, very young age. And one of the stories I have in the book is when we were living in San Diego and my middle one was in first grade and I wanted to volunteer to be in the classroom. And so I show up at the Panera for meeting 10 other moms and we're going to discuss the school picnic. And I sit down and all the moms are discussing, well, did you finish the book report? Have you finished the book report? Like, are you done with it? Oh, we have to make it into a mobile. And I'm thinking, we're supposed to do a book report for this meeting? No, no, no. The first grade teacher is assigned a book report. You haven't finished the book report yet? And I went home and I said to Parker, I said, dude, have you read your book? And he goes, nah. I said, have you done your book report? Nah, I'll get to it later. He's 6. I said, okay, fine. Well, flash forward 3 weeks, I'm in the classroom for the back to school night, and all these bookmobiles are hanging around the classroom ceiling. And the teacher, Mrs. Cunningham, comes over with a wry smile on her face and she says, and she sees Parker's and like globs of glue and crayon and misspelled words. And we look over at the one next to it that's, 12 font, perfectly typed, no spelling errors. It looks gorgeous. And she says, some parents don't think I can tell who did the work, but I can. Been doing this for 35 years, right? And I don't think you're a bad parent. We all do it, right? We all want to help, but if I can get them ahead, if I can get them, if I can get them doing well in first grade, right? But that's where it starts. And then we don't let go. We keep holding on to that, right? But what we need to do is allow them to have their experiences, allow them to have their times where it doesn't go that well. As he mentioned, as Ted mentioned, I have this podcast, Raising Athletes, and I was lucky enough to have Steve Kerr on last year. And oh man, what a gem of a human being. I think he's even a better human than he is a coach. And I just got to spend an hour with him. But he talks about parenting here for a minute.
It's not our job as parents to tell them how to get through stuff. It's our job to guide them and help them get through it themselves because they're the ones. And I think that's really what coaching is about. I always say that being a good coach is a lot like being a good parent. You're not doing things for your kids. You're trying to give them perspective and help them become the best versions of themselves so that they're making their own decisions and they're doing the things that can help them be successful. But they're the ones who are actually doing it. And
and he's absolutely right? Like we so desperately want them to do well, but we don't allow them to fall and allow them to fail and it's when we allow them to have the headwinds, we all learn by hitting the headwinds. And we really need to, so giving you a little context of what's going on. When I started writing the book back in 2017, honestly, I'm a late bloomer. It took me a while to get going, but it was a $15 billion business. It was almost the size of the NFL. Today, it's a $43 billion business, youth sports. Private equity's gotten involved. There's so much money involved. It's completely changed. But what do we know about why we want them to play? Because those who remain active up to 23 will suffer less depression, less anxiety, less overwhelm. They'll be more likely to take risks. They'll understand what it means to be a part of a team, what it means to stick through stuff that doesn't go our way. And what we see right now is sports specialization is happening younger and younger. And you've got kids that are 5 and 6, and the parents are feeling that, yeah, but if we don't specialize now, we're going to be behind. But what we know are the best athletes are ones that play multiple sports and they can think different ways. Their bodies don't break down. They're able to be more resilient and they're able to recover. The National Academy of Pediatrics recommends, and it's almost hilarious, but if you go onto their website, it says it recommends that kids take 3 months off in between sports. Ha, 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 right? You finish club on a Friday and on Sunday is the tryout for the high school season, right? There is no break. And what you're seeing is this is what's causing this breakdown. But we also know that less than 7% will go on to play past high school. If I told you there's a 3% chance of rain today, are you going to walk around with an umbrella? No, but that's what we're doing when oh, all of my money's going to this, all of my energy is going to this. 70% of kids are dropping out of sport altogether at age 13. Aspen Institute has been doing a lot of studies around this. They have a great report around talking about that. Girls are dropping out at twice the rate of boys. What we know are 94% of C-suite women played a sport. Not they played a D1 sport, not that they played in college, not that they even played past high school, but they participated in sport. And those who we can keep playing and keep playing in multiple areas, they learn differently. They're more adaptive. These are all the leadership skills that we want, right? They're collaborative. They have grit. They have gratitude. They have better time management skills. They're able to rebound when things don't go their way. So what is the right age to specialize? I mean, when I go and I speak all over around the country, everybody says, yeah, I know you speak other places, but here it's crazy. Like, and here can be, again, Missoula, Montana, where I grew up, or Dallas, Texas, or New York City, Chicago, Illinois. It's all the same everywhere now, and it's happening at younger and younger ages. For you who have for sure under the age of 13, I say focus on the 3 Fs: friends, fun, and fundamentals. Find the programs that value those things, that find a good coach that wants to teach them how to think like a basketball player, how to think, how to move your body. Not, we're going to run, Omaha. We're going to have 5 out of bounds plays. 10-year-olds don't understand even what that means. And you see these coaches coaching, 5th graders that are trying to run 3 different plays. If you're learning the fundamentals, and I have a whole chapter in the book on that, and how important that is if you are a youth sports coach, what are the things that you want them to take away from that experience? Most of the kids I talk to when I meet with them one-on-one, why are you playing? A lot, I like my friends are there. And that's okay for them to be, again, face to face, learning how to socialize, learning how to come off the bench, learning how do I get better and improve. But parents, avoid the 4th F. FOMO. Well, what are they doing? And we should go to a different club. And we should be, I know kids who have gone to 4 different high schools in 4 different years. We're constantly looking for the grass always being greener. I'm not saying there aren't cases where you should transfer or go to a different place. That's not true. But think about it. Again, I like to say start with a family meeting about what is it that we as a family want to get out of this experience? What are our values? We only get 18 summers with them. How do we want to spend their 12th summer? Do we want to go from one travel tournament to the next? Or do we really want to go to grandma's 80th and go camping in the backyard with the cousins and make memories that they're gonna have 20 years from now? There's a great video. I usually have it embedded. I'm going to actually skip it today, but I Love to Watch You Play is another great resource for youth sports. She has this wonderful video. It's now almost 10 years old, but it's the kids talking from their words what it means to play sports. And to a T, they say, Mom, Dad, could you just sit down and watch? Could you just leave me alone and let me play? And I know it's easier said than done. I actually had a dad on a call yesterday. It was the mom. The mom's like, you need to talk to the dad too. And the dad said, he goes, I'm the jerk. I'm the one. They're calling themselves out. It's like, well, here's the beautiful thing about us humans is we're the only mammals that have frontal lobes. So we actually can change our behavior. And I said, beautiful that you're actually raising your hand and saying, I'm the problem. It's me. And I've had 5 dads who all played D1 sports or one guy played in the NFL. And he's like, somebody gave me your book. And he goes, I've been doing it wrong. I'm the guy that's yelling in the whole car ride home. In the car ride home, the only 6 words they need to hear, I love to watch you play. That's it. Get home, go do something else. The next morning, hey, you want to talk about the game? Nah, I'm good. Move on. Go talk to a friend, phone a friend, talk to your spouse, do something else. If they say, yeah, tell me. And I have 3 kids and all of them are different. And one is like, hit me, give me everything. Tell me what I need to do different. And the middle one's like, just tell me you love me, right? And the third one was kind of like, I'm over it. Let's go get ice cream, right? So we got to parent the kid we have not the one we wish we had. So here are some, again, in all the talking that I've done in the last 3 years about the book, 2.5 years about the book, these are some do's and don'ts. Some of them seem very, very obvious. As an athletic director, I would say hand this out to every parent with the book before the season starts, right? If we're all speaking the same language, if we're all coming from the same point of view, we want these kids to have a great experience. Parents, cheer louder for the other kids than for your own. It's not that complicated, right? Encourage your child to advocate for themselves. Just as I told Parker, it's your book report. He got a C on the book report. Okay, is that upset you? Do you want to get a better grade? Let's talk about it. But you should go talk to your coach. And when you have the coach on speed dial and every single game, well, yeah, I'm going to talk to them about it. I'll wait till tomorrow. I've had coaches say to me, you're the only parent I didn't hear from all season. Like, what? Like, how is that possible? He's 15. He needs to be talking to you about, that's not my role. Your role is to say, gosh, that stinks that you lost, or that stinks that you didn't play. How can I support you? Parents, here's the secret sauce. Most of the time, they just want to be heard. They actually don't want us to fix the problem. They just want us to listen and say and empathize. Wow, that sounds, I'm so sorry. I know you practiced really hard all week. I know the coach told you he was going to put you in, and then he didn't. What do you think was going on there? You want to talk about it? Nah, I'm over it. Or yeah, I guess I flew to Kansas City, watched my daughter's team play for 5 days. On the 5th day, half the team left. She put in a girl that was 6 inches shorter than my daughter to play in the front row. My daughter never touched the floor for 5 days. I can tell you I did more laps in that convention center than I've ever done. But, we both cried on the way home. And I said, I don't know. This stinks. And she said, Mom, I'm going to go talk to the coach on Monday. I've got to figure out how I can get better so that I can get in. Extra credit. I love to challenge myself with this one. Go find somebody on the other team. Man, that was an amazing pitch you had. Oh, wow. You are crushing it out there. It costs you nothing. And it's everything to that. Wow, this mom from the other team went up to me and talked to me about, even if they lost, even better if you lost and you still have the, chutzpah to say it's okay that, I'm acknowledging your hard work. And then all of these on the don'ts, I unfortunately come from actual experience. Don't cheer against other people. That's not what we're here for. And I feel like our pro sports give us a really bad, we see it happening in the pro sports. We're all drinking. I had one school I spoke to and she's like, can you talk about the red Solo cups? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, everybody brings their red Solo cups to all the games and everybody's drunk by, halfway through the game. And then that's when it all goes south, right? We have to decide this is their journey. How are we showing up for them? Yes, we're there to have fun. Yes, we're allowed to have a cocktail. There was one that went viral of parents getting in a fight over, well, that you can't tell me not to drink at my kid's game. No, of course not. But think about it through your kid's lens when they are going out there to do something they love and they only want your acknowledgement and, affirmation. How do you want to show up for them? Well, we made the ones team. Well, we are on the 3 team. I get that call a lot too. And then I talk to the kid and the kid's like, I'm happy on the 3s. Actually, I know that these kids are better than me and I'm just happy to be a part of the team, right? Take the we pronoun out. Stop calling the coach. Don't complain about playing time. Yes, if there's ever any concern about safety, that's the one time you absolutely have an opportunity and you must get involved. But other than that, assuming the coach is doing what they're meant to do, and then if that's the case, then you obviously go to administration. That same volleyball tournament I was at, I happened to walk past a court. The girl was crying, the mom was crying, and the dad was screaming, why did I even bother coming? Why do I even waste my money on this? I have no idea what was happening in that moment, but I can guarantee you that's not what the dad wanted to happen. I know that for sure he was having a rough moment, but that's not how you want your kids to remember their youth sports experience, right? Don't spend time, that ref stunk and, that kid sucks and you're better than them. And I'm going to go post on social about it. I'm going to go heckle the other team. Leave all that. That's not who we are. Control the controllables. Focus on what you can control. When I meet with teens, when I meet with parents, these are the 10 things that require zero talent. I can guarantee you any teacher that's watching this, any professor, any coach, any boss, if your kid is nailing these 10 things, they are going to have a spot on the roster. They're going to have a job. If they're at the, on the cusp of getting the A-, they're going to get rounded up. There was a kid on my son's basketball team in high school, undersized, not very talented, but he did all of these in spades. And when I asked the coach, what do you think about Matthias? Well, I will never cut Matthias. Matthias is my most valuable player because he brings all of these things. And by the way, Matthias is still my son's best friend and he's crushing it at Indiana Business School. And I say to Matthias, someday you need to hire my son, right? Like those are the kids that are going to leapfrog everybody else in the long run. Nobody cares that you never got off the bench. That's not what this experience is about. So what are we modeling? How are you showing up? So first it's checking in with ourselves. When they get to high school, it's like peanuts, right? Wah, 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 wah. They are not listening to what we say, but they're watching everything we do and they're taking notes. If you're getting up, you have a meditation practice, you're journaling, you're exercising, you're, again, living in balance, you're walking the talk, they are more likely, and you may need to say it 1,000 times. I know my son didn't get it until he was a college athlete. He said, I went and played pickup at UCLA and some guy was like, looked him up and down and he was playing for UCLA. He's like, you're a D1 athlete? And he came home, he's like, Mom, I need to eat better. I'm like, yeah, we've never talked about nutrition. I mean, of course I've talked about nutrition. Of course I provide healthy meals, but sometimes we just need to keep bringing the horse to the water. And eventually the peer group will show them, oh, wow, he's getting the results he wants. What is he doing differently than I am? Probably a lot of these things, right? There's another great sports parenting site and talking about, and they had Tom Brady on a couple months ago. And I haven't ever been a huge Tom Brady fan, but I love obviously what he's accomplished. And he nailed it from a sports parenting perspective, which was he's got 3 kids and he's like, I can't want it more than them, but I can teach them, we can teach them how to deal with adversity. And he said, unfortunately now, when we don't like the adversity we're given, we just move the bar and we put them in a different lower area. So sometimes when we can think about adversity as how can we help them lean into this? And he goes, that's what I always did was, okay, I don't have control. I only get one practice session. I treated when I was 6th on the roster at Michigan, I treated every rep that I got as my one opportunity. That was my Super Bowl. So how do you help them reframe the coming off the bench? Right now, my middle son who's still playing in college is injured. I'm spending all my time when I'm coaching him of how do you lean into this discomfort of redshirting and not being a part of the team and not feeling valued to, I'm on the other side of this. What have I done to prepare myself for what's coming next? That's what we can do. So parents, if I can leave you with one thing, it would be, we got to stay in our lane. And by that, I mean, we're running alongside them, but we shouldn't be in their lane, pushing them, running over the top of them, trying to lead. We've got to allow them to lead. And the best athletes I know are the ones that it's intrinsically driven, right? They want it. The ones that I see a lot of athletes who they get to the college level and they're like, I'm done. And that's okay too. That is not a waste. It's not like, oh, we've lost. I saw one mom that was like, all these years of youth volleyball, and she says she doesn't want to play in college. What a waste. No, 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 no. There's no commitment or no contract your kid signs at 5 that says, I have to be a D1 athlete or bust. There are so many things that she's learned along the way those are the blessings that she or he is going to get. There's another great book, and I know Gilda's had her on to speak at least once, Jennifer Wallace's work on Never Enough. And one of the things she focuses on, which is we put all of everything on one pedestal, right? Like everything is about your grades and your sport. And what I see are a lot of kids having this identity crisis is, and I had my kid during COVID sitting at the kitchen table in tears saying, "What am I without basketball?" And I'm thinking as a parent, I am a horrible parent if the only thing you think we value is your sport. That is, again, something you do. It is not who you are. And I know this is hard. There's so many hours in the day, but what are the other interests? And I love the assignment of think back to when your kid was 5 or 6 and they just went into their room to play, or they just were, doing things on their own. What are the things that they just had a natural inclination to do? I've got a client right now who's looking to pivot away from volleyball as a senior, and she said exactly that. But what would I do? And when I asked what are her other passions, she's like, you know what? I've always wanted to learn how to paint. I said, well, what if you're the next Georgia O'Keeffe and you haven't gotten busy yet? She's like, started giggling, and she's like, oh, that sounds wonderful, right? They're babies. They're just getting going. I had Carrie Walsh Jennings on, 5-time Olympian, and she talks about that. She's like, these kids are so young, and we think and they think, oh, this is it. I've been doing this all my life. It's my only thing. They're 20. They're 22. They haven't even yet started. There's a story, I don't know if it's true, but I love it, so I tell it a lot. Steven Spielberg infamously wrote a letter to his freshman football coach. Thank you so much, coach, for cutting me, because that's what made me pick up the camera. We don't know where they might pivot and what might come next, but putting all of our eggs in one basket and the pressure that they feel when they do that is not what is intended. I won't go into all of this now, but these are the tools that I work with when I work with athletes, when I work with the parents, and how do we show up, right? Like these are the things that we have control over. And when we take back control over how we want our day to go, then we get to control the narrative on the other side. Right now, a lot of things, when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, you're drinking through the fire hose. You're just doing, doing, doing. She can't think about what she might want to do after volleyball because she's only doing volleyball. You actually might need to take a break from volleyball. Maybe we take the season off. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what comes up for us. I'm not saying sit around. I'm not saying that means you got to be on your phone. I'm saying this is a research project so that we can start figuring out what's next. 95% of what we do every day is driven by our subconscious. Over half of what we do every day is a habit. What are your habits? When I worked at Nike, my husband was also at Nike, and he had the opportunity to work with Kobe. And this ad came out of Evan's work with Kobe, which he went deep on what are the things that drive you. And I'm not saying you need to be raising the next Kobe, but just so you think of and understand how these kind of people who really are into what they do. He's like, all of my success has come from my habits. I would assign, anytime I would have a hater, I would assign a workout to whatever they said about me. Stubborn, you've peaked, big ego, you're a baby. He's like, I would assign a workout. He goes, that's what fired me up. So analyzing with what motivates your kids. Some kids play better when they're happy. Some kids play better when they're really angry. Like what motivates you and what are the habits we can start helping them build now? And, good news, bad news for boys. And I'm sure many of you've heard any of these presentations, this already, but boys, the frontal lobe won't close until 25. Girls might be 18 to 20, but the things that you say, and I've told them that, and I know, and I've already mentioned it, the penny hasn't dropped yet. So we need to keep showing up for them. We need to keep giving them the opportunity to ask the questions, to make the mistake. My oldest just turned 25, and now he actually says that out loud. Well, Mom, good news. The frontal lobe is closing. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Maybe you won't get the parking ticket this time, right? We decide our habits. And our habits get to decide our outcomes. We don't get to say, hey, I want to be on the all-star team. Hey, I want to get a 4.0. Hey, I get to decide, am I going to study or not today? Am I going to go do the extra workout by myself? Am I going to be the best version of myself today? And I know this is a big topic too. I'm sorry, I don't know, am I getting close to time? But I won't go deep on this, but with coaching, and this becomes such a critical factor, right? And I get this call a lot. Yeah, but my kid's playing for, playing for a Bobby Knight, and they're screaming and yelling, or the kid doesn't feel seen, the kid doesn't feel valued. I see kids that, particularly in AAU programs and travel programs, are carrying a roster of 22 and only 12 are playing. And then on top of that, they're not developing everybody. Unfortunately, now travel sports isn't about development. It's a money grab where, again, find a program. Maybe you go play for the lesser program, but your 12-year-old gets to be developed. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for the John Wooden. And Susie Walton, who I used to do the podcast with, her husband Bill Walton played for John Wooden, and he would talk about the first practice of the year. We would sit down and he would teach us how to put our socks on. He mastered the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are what drove us to become national champions. So finding those coaches, and I know it's easier said than done, but that's what you're looking for at 8, at 10, at 12. We want to keep them playing. I think the youth sports trophy should be about how many kids sign up to play the next year. Not about whether the U9 national, that's not a thing. It's not about winning the title or being on the podium. It's about, wow, I really learned something. I'm curious to get better, and I really want to work hard. Those are the things we're looking for. I won't go into a bunch of it right now, but on my website, you can find a lot of tools. One of them is around recruiting through my own journey, through helping both of my sons, neither who had a D1 offer out of high school. They both waited a year. They both did a prep year. It was their journey. I said, this is what you want to do, you had zero interest, zero offers out of high school, but if this is what you want, I will support you. And they both were able to get over 15 D1 offers, and both played D1 basketball. And even after that, one of them's had an amazing ride. One of them got to college in COVID, and it was a really bumpy ride. That isn't winning. Again, you think, oh, we won, we got the full ride. It's just starting the next chapter of figuring out how to play it. But athletes, if you're considering that, every recruiting journey is different. Respond to every coach. For me, parents, this is their opportunity to learn how to sell themselves, right? This is preparation for that job they're going to get. If they're a late bloomer, they may not be the one that automatically, gets recruited right out of it. Parents, it's a family discussion. What is it that we want? We as a family, not we parents want, but we, the family, wants for them. Is it about academics and athletics is second? I always say you need to pass the broken leg test. That's great that Southwest Eastern, Virginia Tech wants you. Do you want to be there if you break your leg? You've got to find the places that, no, we want to be able to come on, see all of your games. It's got to be the full package, because I don't care what level, D1, D2, D3, NAIA, they are all the same commitment. They've got to really want it, because it becomes a very, very all-inclusive experience for them. It can be beautiful, but it can also be a big struggle. And speaking of struggle, let me end with one little story. A boy finds a caterpillar and says, "Mom, can I keep it?" And she says, "Sure." And he puts it in a jar in his room. A couple weeks later, he comes flying out the door with the jar, comes back in a couple minutes later, and he's sobbing. She says, "Son, what happened?" And he said, "It had formed the chrysalis and it had formed the cocoon, and I saw the cocoon breaking open, and I was so excited. The butterfly was emerging, and so I wanted to help him. And so I ripped open the cocoon to help him, but his wings weren't strong enough and he couldn't fly, and so he can't make it." Parents, stop ripping open the cocoon, right? Like, that's what we do. We think we're helping. Oh, I'm just going to open it a little bit. But the more we do that for them, the less they're able to, have you ever had your kid, right? When they studied for the test and they nail it, see how proud they are? Oh, I stayed up. I did the notes. I did the practice test. I nailed it. I phoned it in. I cheated off my friend. They need to get through these moments on their own. So I'll end where I started. This is hard. This journey is hard. Again, I hope my book can be of help. I have a podcast where you can learn about, we listen to me interview athletes and authors and psychologists. And again, I'm learning with you and I love hearing from you. I have a Substack where I write, once or twice a month where you can, again, learn, get inspired, and get help and support. And with that, I would love to turn it over to any questions.
Outstanding. And the questions are coming in already. Great, great information. I took so many excellent notes. We're going to get right into it again. So this is a question about kids playing multiple sports in the same season. What's your comment about that?
It depends on the level, depends on the age, and depends on how many kids you have, right? Because, you do become an Uber driver. And again, I think it becomes a resource discussion around how do you want to spend your time? And then it depends on the kid's personality. Some kids, water off a duck's back, I can handle two sports and school, and I'm happier when I'm busy. And other kids this is overwhelming. This is too stressful. So unfortunately, there's not a one size fits all. You really need to, again, ask them, what is it that you want? I'm again dealing with a client right now. He's playing both football and baseball. The baseball coach is the one that's grinding him into the ground. But he's getting a lot of great support from the football coach. So I said to the parents, well, he must like football better. She said, actually, he really loves baseball. He really only wants to play baseball. Okay, let him drive, give him support, but allow him to figure out where he wants to. Do we want to go to a new club? Do we want to talk, do you want to get to a different coach? Like, let's figure that out.
Next question. What advice do you have for avoiding overuse injuries in young athletes pursuing D1 recruitment? I know the standard advice, multiple sports, time off, but for an aspiring pitcher, for example, that won't allow skill development needed for recruitment. As a mother of two pro baseball players, one who suffered an overuse injury at 23 after 15 years of pitching, I don't see how he'd have been recruited otherwise. He was self-driven from age 8. How do we balance injury prevention with the reality of recruitment that recruitment requires?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Congratulations, by the way. It's amazing. And right, it's awful. Like, how can you can go back and say, okay, how would I do it differently? I know there's pitch counts. I know there's, they put limits on them. I know all of these kids are completely sleep deprived. The average, usually I have a slide in there about that, but the average kid should be getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. But, I know my daughter, when she wanted to play varsity volleyball, was up at 4:30 in the morning, 7 days a week, because that's when they could get in the gym. So that's where you, the parent, needs to say, and I know this is hard because you're giving up the potential of maybe not getting. If your kid was driven and he really wants the pro thing, then okay, how do we balance that?
Mhm.
Maybe it is taking 1 month off a year. I don't know. Again, it really matters on finding, I would say, find other resources within what other coaches, what other clubs, what are they saying to help protect your child and have them advocate, hey, he's super talented. I'm only going to have him pitch every third game or whatever, so that
Mhm.
you get them on your side. We're trying to go, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if we burn them out at 10 or 12 or 15, they can't go the distance. And even if pro isn't the end all be all, I have a lot of parents like, I don't care if my kid plays pro. I don't even care if they play in college. I just want them to play through high school because of all the good things that come out of it. And you see kids that their bodies are so broken down in high school that they can't do it.
Speaking of that, can you put up the slide with the tools for a lifetime again? A couple of people asking for that. That's just a
Oh,
great slide.
oh
Tools
yeah.
for a lifetime. Yeah, beautiful.
Oh yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so these are all the tools, and I could spend an hour here going through all of these wonderful tools that when I work one-on-one with athletes, and now I'm doing a lot more one-on-one with the parents too, is giving us the tools that this is not about sports. This is about how we do life. This is about that guy cutting you off in traffic and how you're going to respond. This is about, I want to write the book, but who am I to write the book, right? I've got to really get clear with myself about what I want so that I can put the process in place. And know you're never too old to start something new. I just turned 56 last week. I've got new goals for 2026. I've got a whole thing on my website about goal setting too. So if you want any more information on that or want to work with me on that, that's my jam.
Excellent. Excellent. Ted, I know that you've got a question. You're up.
You put me on the spot.
I've got a question to follow you.
No, honestly, she answered so many things that I was concerned about. But I guess, my biggest thing as an educator, I wish we talked more about this because most schools, athletics, they do play such a big part in school culture and climate. And you mentioned identity throughout your speech. So, how can we incorporate this through our educational path where we could have these honest, open discussions throughout the course of at what grade do you start? I mean, it seems like everyone's starting earlier and earlier with travel sports. So when can we start having these discussions with our kids?
I go and speak at grade schools and middle schools. You're never too young to start because we're talking about life skills that they're going to need far beyond. And again, take out, I say raising empowered leaders, because take out sports, put in science, take out sports, put in art, take out sports, put in, this is not about sports even. This is about how we do life and how we want all of our kids to be, again, willing to take swings at whatever it is that they find interesting to them. And when we, again, allow them, to answer your question, like I love working with schools and I come in and spend a full day. I work with the parents in the morning, then I work with this different students groups, and then I work with the teachers and the coaches. And what if we're all speaking the same language? What if we have the tools that we can now, and I have a journal that I've created that that students can start adopting these practices now. And again, we can do it as adults and model it. And I think it's what we all need right now is a little bit more space and able to breathe and able to look at, am I just doing this because this is what I've done? And I do. I have kids. A girl is a soccer player. I'm really good at soccer. Okay, why do you play? She's like, I don't know. She's like, it's just what I've always done. Okay, let's start thinking about what other things you want to do. It's okay to pivot. We were talking about your son before we came on. Like at 20, like you've had a great run. Like it's wonderful that you've collected all of these tools. I remember when you were 8 and you loved taking apart the bike or whatever, right? Like, what are those things that really lit him up? The Legos or the art projects or the movie or there's other things that you have. And as soon as we have some space, we can breathe and we can say, wow, I just never even considered. My oldest right now is pursuing some acting. Do I think he's going to be a Hollywood actor? No, but I love that he's going to learn how to think on his feet. And I'm like, there is nowhere in life that you don't need to know how to think on your feet. And so he's submitting little, now you do it all over video. And I think it's beautiful. Like, whether he becomes an actor or not, I don't care. I just want you going for it. And he's researching it. And he had my husband out here. They were recording a video and he got a call back. And my husband's like, I'm pretty sure it was because of me, right? Like, it's great. Like it becomes a team sport, even that.
You're going to
Sorry.
love this question. What if your teen likes playing for fun, team camaraderie, but isn't looking for a long-term career in the sport? How do you keep them motivated?
Ooh. The friendship piece, the socialization piece, and maybe you say, if this isn't your sport, let's pick something else. But we as a family value you being involved. So let's figure out, maybe it's being in the school play. Maybe it's, and you want to go skateboarding or you want to go, it doesn't have to be competitive either, right? Like we also have this idea that you've got to be going for the trophy. There's a lot of kids who, I wrote about one girl in the book who she's like, my dad was a high school baseball and golfer, and he thinks that I need to do that. And she goes, I don't really care about that. I just really want to go ride my bike. And we want them to be active. We want them to be,
Yes.
to be connected to others. So that's another opportunity for us to have a great conversation around what is it that they value and what is it that we value as a family so that we can get them into the right fit.
Here's a question. You really have such good suggestions. What about the topic of substance misuse and keeping our coaches on track?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a girlfriend who says her father says, yeah, you want to keep the kids playing sports. If nothing else, it's cheaper than rehab. I'm like, oh, I was like, so I know a lot of parents that are like, I want them to choose sports because I want to keep them being healthy, right? And keeping them out of the mischief. If you're speaking directly about the parents and how they show up, to me, that goes to the superintendent, to the athletic director, to the meeting that happens at the beginning of the season, that this is our culture. This is how we show up. We're not drinking at the football game. We're not drinking at the baseball game. You want to do that. You want to tailgate before, but you're not doing it on school property. Like, we need to decide as a community what we value. And then, there will be the outliers, but I believe that that's not the place for that. We want our kids to, I don't think their biggest experience should be about remembrance of their high school sports should be about the parents getting into a duker on the sidelines. I mean, it's heated enough without alcohol,
Mhm. And what about the ramifications of as a someone who works with athletes all the time? What are the implications of, say, alcohol or marijuana on an athlete?
Oh, I mean, yeah, you're taking away all, if sleep is your superpower, then alcohol and drugs is going to take you faster, quicker down the other way. And what I am seeing a lot of and hearing a lot of is vaping, particularly in college athletes, has become a huge problem. And I know of two athletes that I work with that they were in the transfer portal because they got there and they were like, everybody on the team was vaping. Like, this was, it's become a much bigger issue. And I think, that goes on through, I can't speak to it necessarily, on a individual basis, but it's very important that they're getting the self-awareness and the education. And I know you have Jessica Leahy on talking about, an addiction inoculation and delay is her bottom line, right? Like, the longer they can, that again, back to the frontal lobe, the later we can get them to even try it, the better they are, because the frontal lobe starts to close and they start to realize that this is not a great solution for what they want.
I'm glad you mentioned that presentation on the website. We've got her presentation recently on this topic with Jessica Leahy, and we've loaded up a couple of the Wallace events. She's coming back in October. What's the number one question you get when you talk to students? What's the number one question that you get when you talk to parents?
Great question. So I spoke in the fall at the Lake Tahoe school, and I asked the middle schoolers, raise your hand if you feel pressure or anxiety about your sport. Every single hand went up. They're
Mhm.
mostly skiers. They're all going pro. When I spoke to the AD after, I said, so you said you've been here 20 years. How many pro skiers have you had come through this school? And he said, one. No, I take that back. We had one skier who made the national team, the Olympic team, but never actually got to ski in the Olympics. Okay, in 20 years, if one made the roster, like, what are we doing, right? We need to, and he said, we got kids that leave, for skiing, they want to get on the mountain. So they're missing 3 or 4 days of school a week so that they can get on the mountain. Again, parents, it's your journey, it's their journey together, but what are you doing to make sure they're getting the right experience? And I know now a lot of kids are going virtual. I've got hockey players that don't go to school. I've got an equestrian rider that doesn't, we have other solutions. We can do virtual school, and some kids, it does mean that much to them. That's fine. Like, that's your family's decision to do that. But again, make sure that that's coming from your child and that's not your dream. It's in chapter 2, whose dream is it? Like,
Mhm.
making sure and keep checking in. The best parenting advice I ever read, have 91-minute conversations with your kid over the course of the
Mhm.
years. Not
Mhm.
one, well, we talked about it once. I told them this. No, we got to
Mhm.
keep checking in. Just like us, we change our minds. The situation changes. We mature a little bit. We're in a different day than we were a year ago. The biggest question I get from the parents is, I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed.
Yeah.
How can I better support my athlete?
Yeah.
And I hope I've answered some of that today. But that I think is true for all of us, because parenting is hard. And again, we all want to come out the other side, not just our kids, but ourselves, of feeling like we are enough. I mean, the number one thing I think we all want to know to a person is, I am enough just as I am.
Yeah.
And the ones that break my heart the most are the ones where the kid is crying because the parent doesn't see that they are enough, whether they strike out or whether they make the team or whether they win the national championship. The parent the child we have, not the one we wish we had.
Oh, love that. Love that. That is the mantra of GPS. Love the child in front of you, not the child you imagine or hope for, that child who deserves and needs all of you. Question here. Is AAU really essential for a student who wants to play in college?
So it has shifted. From my day, high school was where you got recruited. Now it definitely is on the travel circuit. So it depends on the sport. Here I'm assuming we're speaking about basketball. But yes, eventually, but it doesn't mean you need to start it at 8. And that's where I think parents, I had one parent on the call like, well, we've got to do travel, but we don't get a summer. And I was assuming she was talking about a 14-year-old. She was like, well, my kid's 10. And I get it. That goes back to the FOMO. You feel like, but if we don't start now, then we're going to be behind. Uh, you know, Bobby Hurley, and we were living in Buffalo for a while, and he was the UB coach. He's now the ASU coach. But I remember him saying, if your kid's talented, I can find them in the middle of a field in Kansas, right? And now with the internet and now with videos and now with the recruiting, it doesn't mean you don't need to put them where they can compete and get better. But again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you raise the best athlete and they're the best player and they get recruited, but they're burned out or they're injured or they don't have you really need the trifecta. You need the athleticism with the mindset, with the endurance. To have all of those requires a very long, undulating journey.
So much good here. 18 summers. I love that. One of our athletic principals, I remember at the beginning of the year, she asked everyone to stand up, those people who had played at high school, and then sit down, those that went on to college professionally. It was a real visual for keeping your eyes on the being realistic. So as we're closing, our last question. Give me the elevator speech that you give to a student, a coach, and a parent about this book. What do you want to leave them with, each of those people?
We, as a student, as an athlete, as someone on the front of your journey, I want to support you where you are, and I want you to be curious. And I would love for you to take risks and try new things and be uncomfortable and lean into again, whether it's not playing or getting injured, needing to overcome an injury or overcoming a bad coaching situation. That's honestly the meat. That's the place where you really get to grow. As I said, my middle son right now is in the middle of, he not only injured his wrist, he injured his ankle. Like, how does that happen in one season? But he can't even run we are going to have headwinds.
Yeah.
Life is about headwinds. For parents, it's about every season of your child's life is going to be different. And what we think about at 5 and our visions, and we all have dreams. Of course, we want our kids to be the best version of themselves. But walking alongside them and allowing them and saying, gosh, it doesn't seem like you're as into this as you once were. Tell me about that, right? If we can ask twice as much as we give advice, and here's the thing, we know the answer. We've done this. We've been there. It's easy to jump in. And for coaches, I would love to see every club and high school and middle school and grade school coach. I think if you bring the Z level athlete up to being an X and an L up to being the goal is to help everybody get some tools that you haven't already had. That's a successful coach. It's easy to coach the all-stars, the all-Americans. Like we don't, we just throw the ball out and they can figure it out. But how do you develop, and I go into the coaching in the book, how do you develop athletes that are intrinsic learners, that are curious, and that are willing to fight through the discomfort? That's a great coach.
Outstanding. Such an honor to host you today, Kirsten.
Aw.
Such fabulous. We're going to get right into the questions. Couple here on the same topic about parenting a perfectionistic kid. In this case, it's super competitive young person to the point of tears at losses. They talk about mistakes, but he's very hard on himself, even in board games. Good athlete, but he shies away from things he thinks he's not good at, doesn't come easily. How can we encourage him to stick with it?
Love that question, and I get that one a lot. Um, Build scaffolding. So scaffolding is foundations in other areas, and I'm talking about what is he bad at that he does that is low risk, that has no, cooking. I don't care about cooking. Great. Let's learn how to cook, make pancakes, right? Like help him build skill. Oh, wow, you're actually pretty good at that. Oh, like he needs to start understanding that, well, you didn't know how to make pancakes before today. Now you do. This translates, and what we see is these skills translate. Well, wow, how did you get to be good at math? Well, I love math and I study math. Well, you study math because you're curious about it. You weren't always good at math. You didn't just come out of the womb knowing how to, do long division. You ended up learning it because you were willing to put your mind to it. And I had a kid like that too. Tears at the board games, tears at, in the middle of the court. But when we help them realize that it's a muscle, and there are other ways that you can build it in other areas so that they can then, I don't know what age they are, but as they get older, they can start to realize, oh, that's actually transferable. And so giving them opportunities to find those wins and, oh, actually, it's not the worst thing in the world that I lost the game tonight or that I didn't hit the home run or whatever the situation is. What can I learn from this? Ooh, and then they get curious about it. And then curiosity is what drives them to get even better.
Thank you. Dr. Baldwin, I see you're back. And I know you join me in all the gratitude we can muster. Did you have a question?
I just love the idea of the strength is through the struggle and that whole idea that you can't bust open the, you
Cocoon.
know, yeah. So I
Mhm.
love them all. I guess if what's the most valuable thing that you learned in your journey? You shared so much, but what is the most valuable thing that you learned from the best coach that you had?
Oh, good question.
Ooh, good question. That I am enough.
Mm.
When we feel we are enough, and so parents, again, you've got to parent the child you have, not the one you wish you had. And again, if I had $1 for every parent that's like, yeah, but my kid's got a lot of talent, but they're just not using it. But sometimes that kid doesn't have that drive in that area. But when we see them for who they are, and maybe it's not about sports, maybe it's about art, or maybe it's about science, or maybe their skill, they haven't even tapped into it yet. But the best coach I had, again, Debbie Hill, who I got to play for in college, I lost 10 pounds when I got to William and Mary and I became a Hall of Fame athlete. I think because I felt loved. Because I wasn't being diminished and demeaned and feeling not enough. And so, Oprah Winfrey, I love her quote, which was she said, for 25 years I did the show, and no matter who I had on, whether it was the president of the United States or the janitor or the guy from the street, everyone asked the same question when the lights went off. Was that okay? Was I okay? We all want to know that. And parents, of course, we want what's best for our kid, but allowing them to know that whether I win this game or not, whether I make that team or not, it doesn't have anything to do with whether my parents love me or not. Those two things are not tied.
Beautiful.
Love it. Here, someone is commenting, Kirsten, on that quote, the statistic you had about 70% of coaches not being trained at all. Do you have a citation for that? That's a very specific question, but I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Good question. I
You can
do.
let me know. You can let me know and I'll email it on.
Yeah, I'll let you
Yeah.
know. Sorry, but it's just through, I think it's done through the work that I've done with the Aspen Institute, has done a lot of work on that. And again, that's part of the solve is these poor coaches aren't given tools. And then, my daughter who played volleyball for 5 years and then last year said, "Oh, I want to make money while I'm in college." She went back to her club and the club said, "Great." She's like, "I'm going to be an assistant coach." She goes, they threw her, as a head coach. She goes, "What do I know
Mhm.
about head coaching?" She goes,
Mhm.
and you get thrown into it. Sometimes it works, but sometimes they're just trying to navigate their way.
Yeah. You talked about the daily rituals, your tribe of five, the visualizations, the affirmations, the tools for a lifetime. Is there one of those that I like when Jack directed his question to you? Is there one of those that you use specifically? And then secondary and final question. Well, take that, and then I'll go with a final question.
So when I was writing this book, and I think I told you before we started recording, I was researching best parenting books and how do I write the best book? And then I've got to decide, who am I to write a book, right? Like I don't have a PhD in this. So I had to get honest with myself about, am I enough to write this book? So how did I do that? Was getting really quiet with myself. So yes, I have built a practice where every morning I like to get up early at around 5:30. I have a cup of coffee. I sit in a chair and I meditate for 20 minutes about my day. And I have my day. I already gave this talk twice this morning at 5:30 in the morning. I visualize about my day as if it's already happened. So
Mhm.
we get to control what it is we want to bring into our lives. Does it mean that the day's got to go perfectly? No. But if I take 20 minutes, and I know with parents this is hard. Yeah, but I have to be up even 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. If you have 5 minutes where you can just be up in the quiet of your own kitchen or your own living room, get out of bed. Don't be laying down, but sitting up in a chair with your head free and breathing deeply about what is it that I want. And I started visualizing this book, and I had this clear vision of standing on the Tiger Woods stage, which is the Nike headquarters, which is where I worked, and presenting to my people, "Oh, I'm back at Nike and I'm talking about this book. Like, wouldn't that be?" And I got excited about it. And that was when I was like, "Okay, how do I do this?" And I started researching it. And so I started journaling about it. And then I started getting resources and I reached out to Jessica Leahy, who's written a New York Times bestselling book. Who better to learn from somebody who's done it before me? Fast forward 7 years. No, I wasn't standing on the Tiger Woods stage, but I was in the LeBron James Innovation Center speaking to 150 footwear employees. I manifested it. Manifested? No, I thought about it. I got clear on what I wanted, and then I started taking daily steps. Was it a straight line? No. I submitted my book to 100 publishers. Crickets, crickets, crickets. It was this, right? And I had decided ultimately, like that friend, I'm not writing it for her. I'm writing it to show my kids, like, okay, maybe only my best friends read the book, but mom took a swing. Like, right? Like, that's what we want them to see is us taking swings and saying, I value this. And it doesn't have to be about making money. It doesn't have to be about climbing Everest. It can be something very simple about this year, we're going to have a family dinner 2 nights a week. Like, and we're going to sit down and have a discussion about what we did in our day. That can be a big win, right?
Uh, what about the kid who chokes, the kid who's anxious, the kid who doesn't have the confidence? How do I help them?
Stress makes us stupid, right? Fight or
Mhm.
flight. What happens when we get stressed? Cortisol floods the brain, and I can't think. So, a lot of times when you have a kid that's doing that, it's because they're in that panic state. We've had that, right? Like, what do you when you okay, you got to go present on stage. I'm not giving you a deck, just go. What do you mean? Right? It's that same reaction. So, how do we help him get out of his head and into his body? By lowering the cortisol level, by raising the oxytocin level, by giving him the tools. Like I had a client, and this is very LA, but I said, "Who's your favorite?" I was sitting in his living room, and there's an Academy Award it's like so LA. I'm like, okay, what is that about? Oh, my dad was the producer of Air. I was like, oh wow, how cool is that? And I was like, okay, who's your hero? He's a baseball player. He's like, oh, I don't really have any baseball heroes. He's like, but I was on the set with Matt Damon when they filmed Air. He's like, I love Matt Damon. And I said, okay, great. when you stand in the batter's box, I want you to say, Matt Damon. And he started laughing. Here's the thing that's true. We can't be in love and fear at the same time. We have to choose. So either I'm going for what I want or I'm going away from what I fear. Right now, he's choking because he's bringing into being what he fears the most.
Well, I think we could just chat with you all night,
Sorry,
is what
going
I think. And no one is leaving because your information is so spot on. And I already can't wait to have you back on the next book. But this is a great one, Raising Empowered Athletes. And we're so grateful for all of your wisdom tonight and your experience. Dr. Baldwin, I know you join me in thanking all of the parents that are listening, coaches and kids. And thank you so much, Kirsten Jones. Fabulous evening.
Thank you, parents.
Fabulous day. Thank you. See you next time, everybody. This is where we hug the kids.
That's right. And ourselves.
Absolutely. And our hug. Oh, I love that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.